Okay, so let's unpack this. You know that feeling, the one where your skin seems to have, I don't know, a mind of its own. One week it's clear, it's glowing, and then the next you're suddenly battling unexpected breakouts or like dealing with dryness you just didn't see coming. It can feel totally random, right? Like your skin just woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh, absolutely. It can feel that way, and it's really frustrating when your routine feels inconsistent just because your skin is reacting, unpredictably. But what's truly fascinating here, looking into the source material you've provided, is this central idea that these shifts, they're not random at all.
Exactly. That's the core idea running through these sources that your skin changes are deeply, like intrinsically connected to your menstrual cycle. And this powerful concept is emerging. It's that by consciously syncing your skincare routine with where you are in that cycle, what the sources are calling hormone sync skincare, you might actually be able to predict, maybe even prevent, and manage some of these issues more effectively.
Which really raises an important question, doesn't it? How exactly does that subtle but still significant hormonal ebb and flow of the cycle translate into these very specific skin changes you experience?
Hmm.
And what does understanding that underlying mechanism, as it's detailed in the source material, allow you to do differently to support your skin more intuitively?
That is precisely our mission for this deep dive. We're going to explore this stack of source material to really get a handle on how the menstrual cycle influences skin. We'll break it down phase by phase and, crucially, what the sources suggest you can actually do about it by adjusting your skincare, maybe even your lifestyle. Think of this as your shortcut to being truly well informed on this topic. It could potentially give you a whole new perspective on managing your own skin wellness.
Yeah, and the source material does a really excellent job of not just stating correlations, but digging into the hormonal shifts themselves
Yeah.
and linking them clearly to common skin moods and issues. It reveals these clear, predictable patterns beneath what just feels like randomness.
Okay, so armed with the source material, let's jump into the cycle, phase by phase, starting with what the sources describe as the menstrual phase.
Right, so the material focuses on week 1, the menstrual phase. That's roughly corresponding to days 1 through 5 of your cycle. This is the time when the levels of those key hormones, estrogen and progesterone, they're really at their lowest point.
Okay, and how does that dip in hormones specifically impact the skin, according to these sources? Like, what's the mechanism they describe?
Well, what the sources really highlight is that when estrogen and progesterone are low, the skin's ability to hold on to moisture significantly decreases. Estrogen, in particular, influences the production of things like hyaluronic acid, that molecule known for holding on to water. And it also impacts the strength of your skin's natural barrier function. So, with less hormonal support, the skin tends to become duller, drier, and just generally more susceptible to sensitivity or irritation. You might notice like flakiness or just a general lack of plumpness.
Okay. So the dryness and the dullness, they aren't just random. They're a direct result of that lower hormonal hydration support. That makes sense. So given that, what does the source material then recommend your skin actually needs during this more vulnerable, sort of low hormone phase?
Hydration and gentle recovery are absolutely key here. The sources strongly suggest using a gentle, non-stripping cleanser. You really want to avoid further disrupting that skin barrier. Layering a hydrating serum is recommended. They specifically mention ingredients like hyaluronic acid because, well, as we just touched on, it helps draw moisture into the skin to counteract that internal dryness. Adding a nourishing facial oil or maybe a thicker, more occlusive moisturizer is also advised. It helps support and seal that weakened barrier. And importantly, because that skin barrier is compromised and more sensitive, consistent SPF use is highlighted as really crucial for protection.
That makes perfect sense, basically supporting the barrier and boosting hydration when the body's own natural mechanisms are less active. Okay. What about like a little extra care tip from the source for this week? Anything specific?
Yeah, the material suggests this is actually an ideal week for calming face masks. One's focused on soothing or intense hydration, or maybe incorporating some light facial massage, which can help improve circulation and bring a bit more life back to potentially dull skin.
Okay, good tip. So, moving out of that lower hormone phase, then, let's transition into week two. The follicular phase, typically around days 6 through 13. Hormones are shifting here, right?
They absolutely are. What the sources detail is that estrogen levels start to steadily rise during this phase.
Ah, right. And this is often credited as the phase where skin starts looking its best, isn't it? What does the source material say about the skin mood and condition as that estrogen increases?
Well, as estrogen climbs, the sources describe the skin mood becoming more balanced, glowing, and generally more resilient. The rise in estrogen positively impacts things like collagen production, and it increases cell turnover rates. So this leads to improved skin texture, fewer breakouts for many people, and even faster healing if you had any lingering issues from the week before. The skin barrier function also starts to improve, so it feels stronger.
Right. So the increasing estrogen is actively improving the skin's function and appearance. Okay, so what does the source recommend doing for your skin in this phase to kind of leverage this natural improvement?
Yeah, this is the phase for brightening and really capitalizing on that natural resilience. The sources suggest gently reintroducing exfoliation. They recommend milder forms, maybe like lactic acid or enzyme masks, which help to slough off dull surface cells without being too harsh. That aligns with that increased cell turnover. Adding a vitamin C serum is also highly recommended here for its antioxidant protection, and its ability to enhance that glowing effect the sources mention. And because the skin is more balanced, less dry, maybe a lighter moisturizer, perhaps gel-based, might feel better depending on your skin type, of course.
Hmm. Sounds like a great time to focus on enhancing that natural glow. And what's the pro tip from the source for this phase? Anything stand out?
Well, given the skin's increased resilience and faster healing, the source material explicitly states this is generally the best time for things like facials, or maybe more intensive skin treatments like light peels or microdermabrasion, if that's something that's part of your routine, or even just trying out new products, because your skin is a lot likely to react negatively during this window.
Right, that makes sense. That brings us to week 3, the ovulation phase. It's a relatively short window, typically around days 14 to 16. Hormonally, what's happening right at that peak?
So what the sources show is that estrogen peaks pretty dramatically during this time. And there's often a slight surge in testosterone as well, just leading up to the main hormonal shift that follows ovulation.
Okay, how does the skin respond to that specific hormonal combination? You've got high estrogen, but also that hint of testosterone.
Yeah, the skin mood here is generally described as radiant, which totally aligns with that estrogen peak. Your skin might look incredibly healthy, vibrant. However, the sources also point out that this is when oil production can start to subtly increase. That's often influenced by that slight testosterone surge. So while things are still generally good, you might notice your skin feels maybe a little less perfectly balanced than it did in the mid-follicular phase.
Gotcha. So it's about maintaining the glow, but also being a bit mindful of that slight shift towards more oil. What does the source suggest for skincare focus during this peak time?
The focus shifts slightly towards balance and prevention. So while you're keeping up practices that support the glow, the sources recommend starting to incorporate ingredients that can help prevent potential congestion or inflammation that might pop up after ovulation. This could mean continuing with something like a niacinamide serum, the source notes. It helps regulate oil production and has anti-inflammatory benefits. Or maybe using a BHA, like a beta-hydroxy acid spot treatment, but only if you start seeing specific areas of concern pop up. The key message here seems to be consistency and avoiding introducing anything drastically new or harsh right at this point.
And the pro tip for this ovulation peak, the sources connect back to internal support here too, don't they?
Yes, strongly. The source material really emphasizes hydrating from the inside out. I mean, drinking plenty of water is always important, right? But maybe making an even more conscious effort here. They also suggest loading up on grains, as the nutrients can help support skin health during this really significant hormonal transition.
Makes sense. And finally, we enter week 4, the luteal phase, roughly days 17 through 28, leading up to the start of the next cycle. This is definitely the phase many people associate with increased skin challenges.
It is, yeah. And the sources really explain why. Hormonally, this phase is characterized by rising progesterone levels and then a significant drop in estrogen after its peak.
Okay, and how do those specific hormonal shifts manifest in the skin? Based on the mechanisms described in the source, what does that increasing progesterone do?
So what the material makes quite clear is that increasing progesterone can stimulate sebum production, that's your skin's natural oil. This, combined with the drop in estrogen, which can slightly impact skin cell turnover again, kind of creates an environment where pores are just more likely to get clogged. This is why the skin mood is often described as oily, potentially inflamed, and definitely more moody or, unpredictable. Breakouts become much more common, particularly in those areas linked to hormonal fluctuations like the jawline and chin. And skin sensitivity can also return as that estrogen drops off.
Right, so it's like a double whammy. You've got more oil and potentially slower cell turnover leading to congestion. Oof. Okay, so what does the source material recommend for supporting skin during this more reactive and breakout-prone phase?
The focus here really shifts to calming inflammation, managing that extra oil, and clarifying congestion. The sources recommend using ingredients known for tackling breakouts, things like salicylic acid, which is great because it's oil-soluble and can get right into the pores to exfoliate from within. Or maybe benzoyl peroxide for targeting acne bacteria, used just as needed. Sticking to non-comedogenic moisturizers, meaning they're formulated specifically not to clog pores, is strongly advised. The source also emphasizes incorporating anti-inflammatory ingredients. Think niacinamide again for its soothing and oil-regulating properties, or green tea extract, aloe vera, anything to help calm that reactive skin. And they also caution against harsh physical scrubs or trying new active products now, as the skin is just more prone to sensitivity.
It really sounds like a phase where targeted but gentle support is absolutely key. And there's another inside-out tip for this week, too, tying back to diet, as the source suggests.
Absolutely. The sources suggest that during this particular phase, supporting your skin from the inside by being mindful of your diet can be particularly helpful.
Sure.
Specifically, they mentioned considering cutting back on potential inflammatory triggers, like sugar and dairy. They also recommend incorporating magnesium-rich foods. They give examples like spinach, dark chocolate, good news there, pumpkin seeds or nuts. And they link this to potentially helping manage PMS symptoms, which can definitely include skin inflammation for some people.
Okay, wow. So bringing all of this really detailed breakdown from the source material together, what's the single core takeaway you'd want our listener to really grasp from all this?
I think the absolute bottom line, as the source material powerfully illustrates, is that the fluctuations you see in your skin, they aren't just random events. They are actually a predictable response to your body's own hormonal cycle. Your skin is hormonal. That's the key takeaway.
Right. And by understanding how those hormonal shifts influence specific skin behaviors, the dryness in the menstrual phase, the glow in follicular, that oil creep at ovulation, the breakouts in luteal, the source suggests you gain the power to maybe get ahead of potential issues, protect your glow when it's naturally there, and just support your skin much more intuitively throughout the whole month.
Exactly. It's just your perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From just reacting to problems as they pop up
Mm-hmm.
to proactively working with your body's natural rhythm. It's actually fascinating how looking at the cycle holistically, like these sources encourage connecting the hormonal changes to the specific physiological effects on the skin, and then linking those to targeted ingredient functions and even that dietary support we mentioned. It reveals patterns and possibilities that just a static, unchanging daily routine might completely miss.
This really does raise an important question for you to consider, one that builds directly on these insights from the source material. Could true, sustainable skin health be less about chasing that mythical one perfect routine that you stick to every single day, no matter what? And maybe more about understanding and consciously adapting to your body's natural cyclical changes, supporting it not just from the outside with targeted products, but also from the inside, as the source suggests, by aligning your self-care with your internal rhythm.
Yeah, prompts you to think. Is fighting against your body's cycle the most effective approach? Or could working with it, predicting its needs based on these hormonal phases, actually lead to more consistent wellness and, frankly, less frustration?
Something definitely worth reflecting on the next time your skin seems to change overnight. Is it just random chaos, or is it maybe your body trying to tell you exactly what it needs based on where you are in its natural, predictable cycle?